It was a cold, rainy evening, the kind that seemed to wash the entire city in shades of gray and loneliness. The streets were slick with water, the sound of car tires hissing across puddles echoing faintly through the dim glow of streetlights. James Parker, a single father of a 7-year-old girl named Lily, was driving home from his late shift at the auto repair shop. His tired eyes scanned the empty streets as the wipers moved rhythmically, clearing the misty rain from the windshield. He was thinking about the simple things, Lily's bedtime story, the leftovers waiting at home, the bills he'd have to manage next week. But fate had a strange way of interrupting ordinary nights. As he turned a corner near an abandoned bus stop, his headlights caught a figure, a young woman, drenched and trembling, clutching her torn jacket around herself. She stood barefoot on the wet pavement, her eyes wide with terror as if she had run from something or someone. James slowed his truck, his instincts tightening with concern. He rolled down the window slightly and called out, "Are you okay? Do you need help?" The woman flinched and backed away, raising her trembling hands. "Don't touch me," she screamed, her voice breaking under the weight of fear. The pain in her tone cut through the night like glass. For a moment, James just stared, trying to process the raw panic in her eyes. He could see the bruises on her arms, faint but real, the mark of someone who had suffered far too much for one night. He lifted his hands slowly, showing he meant no harm. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said softly, stepping out of the truck but keeping a safe distance. "I'm here to help you." The woman shook her head violently, shivering as tears mixed with the rain, but no one helps. They all lie. Everyone lies. Her voice was fragile, almost lost in the sound of the storm. James could see she was on the verge of collapse. He didn't know what had happened to her, but he knew that if he left her there, something far worse could happen. He took off his jacket and laid it on the hood of the truck, stepping back again. "Look," he said gently. "I'll leave my jacket here. You can take it if you want. You don't have to come close." For a moment, she hesitated, her eyes darting between him and the jacket. Then cautiously, she stepped forward, snatching it up and wrapping it around herself. It was far too big, but it was warm and safe. "What's your name?" James asked softly, trying not to push too hard. She didn't answer. Her lips quivered as she whispered, "I just want to go far away." James nodded, understanding the kind of pain that didn't need words. "Okay, I can drive you somewhere safe. No questions, no pressure. Just a warm place and food." Something in his voice, steady, patient, kind, broke through her wall of fear. She finally looked into his eyes and saw something she hadn't seen in a long time. Honesty. She gave a weak nod. James opened the truck door and turned on the heater before stepping aside. "You can sit in the back if you want," he said, avoiding eye contact so she wouldn't feel cornered. She climbed in hesitantly, still holding herself tightly. As they drove through the rain, silence filled the cab except for the soft hum of the engine. After a few minutes, she spoke in a whisper. "Me name's Emily." James nodded, keeping his eyes on the road. "Nice to meet you, Emily. I'm James." They reached his small home just outside town, a modest house with a flickering porch light and a yard where Lily's pink bicycle leaned against the fence. Emily hesitated before stepping inside, but the warmth and the faint smell of vanilla candles made her shoulders relax a little. From the hallway, a small voice called out, "Daddy, you're home?" Lily ran to the living room, her hair messy from sleep, and stopped when she saw Emily. The little girl tilted her head curiously, then smiled softly. "Hi," she said, clutching her stuffed bunny. "Are you cold? Daddy can make cocoa." Emily blinked in surprise at the child's innocence. For a moment, she forgot her fear. James smiled gently at his daughter. "Lily, this is Miss Emily. She's just visiting for a bit." Lily nodded and ran off to the kitchen, humming. Emily sat awkwardly on the couch, her eyes darting around as though expecting danger to leap from the shadows. "You don't have to stay long," James said, handing her a towel. "Ah, you're safe here, I promise." Emily stared at him, trying to read his intentions. She had trusted men before, men who smiled kindly, who promised safety, and all they'd done was hurt her. But something about James felt different. Maybe it was the way he never looked at her too long, or the way he spoke gently, without pity. As the night stretched on, Emily finally began to talk. She told him about the man she had run from, her boyfriend, who had turned violent months ago. She had tried to escape before, but had always been found. Tonight, she had finally gotten away for good, Her voice cracked as she spoke, and James listened quietly, never interrupting. When she finished, she buried her face in her hands, trembling. "Huh, so tired of being scared," she whispered. James placed a cup of cocoa on the table near her, but didn't touch her. "You don't have to be scared here," he said softly. "I know what it's like to be alone. When my wife died, I thought I'd never trust anyone again. But my daughter taught me that sometimes the world still gives you reasons to believe." Tears rolled down Emily's cheeks as she looked at Lily, who was drawing on the floor, humming softly. The small, ordinary sound filled the room with warmth. "Oh, Lucky," Emily said faintly. "She must love you so much." James smiled. "She does, and she'll love anyone who needs love. That's just who she is." For the first time, Emily smiled too, a weak, uncertain curve of her lips, but a smile nonetheless. Hours passed. The storm outside quieted, leaving only the soft ticking of the clock. Lily had fallen asleep on the couch, and Emily sat watching her, her heart heavy yet peaceful. James offered her the guest room and clean clothes. She hesitated but finally accepted. That night, for the first time in years, Emily slept without fear. When the morning light broke through the curtains, she woke up feeling lighter, as if some invisible chain had loosened around her heart. She walked into the kitchen to find James making pancakes, Lily sitting on the counter, giggling as she sprinkled chocolate chips into the batter. The sight brought a lump to Emily's throat. She had forgotten what happiness looked like. Over the next few days, she helped around the house, played with Lily, and even laughed, a real, unguarded laugh that surprised them all. She knew she couldn't stay forever. One evening, she sat on the porch while James joined her with 2 mugs of tea. "You don't have to go back," he said quietly, sensing her thoughts. "You can stay as long as you need." Emily shook her head. "You've done enough. I can't take more from you." James looked at her gently. "You didn't take anything. You reminded me that kindness still mattered. Maybe that's what both of us needed." She looked at him, her eyes glistening. "Thank you, James," she whispered, "for not turning away when I screamed." He smiled faintly. "Sometimes people just need someone to stay, even when they push you away." There was a silence between them, filled with understanding. The night sky stretched wide and peaceful above them. For the first time in years, Emily didn't feel afraid of the future. As she stood to go back inside, Lily came running with her usual bright grin. "Emily, Daddy says tomorrow we can make cupcakes. You'll help, right?" Emily knelt and hugged her tightly. "I wouldn't miss it for the world," she whispered. And in that small home, surrounded by warmth, laughter, and second chances, Emily realized something powerful. That family wasn't always about blood. It was about the people who showed up when everyone else walked away. The ones who didn't just offer words, but stood there in the rain and said, "I'm here to help you." So if you're watching this and you've ever felt broken, scared, or alone, remember Emily's story. There are still good people out there. There's still light after the storm. And maybe, just maybe, the kindness you give today could save someone's tomorrow. Dizzy.